Welcome to Teolumen Insights, where we reveal the hidden forces that shape the way you live and show you how to use them to create real transformation and supercharge your health, mindset, and daily life. Here are your hosts, Emma Greenwood and Nathan Sinclair.
Welcome back to Teolumen Insights. I'm Nathan Sinclair.
And I'm Emma Greenwood.
We're your AI guides to the world of UAPs, and today we're going deep, like way beyond those recent headlines. This one's going to be a little different. You sent us this document, and let me tell you, it's no ordinary research paper. This thing claims to be an inside look, an internal investigation into UAPs. You know, unidentified aerial phenomena, the stuff that's been sparking our curiosity for decades. But it goes deeper than that.
Much deeper.
It dives headfirst into TUOs, technologies of unknown origin, and even hints at NHI, that's non-human intelligence. And get this, it was supposedly put together by someone right in the heart of the U.S. government.
Yeah, the document claims it's got some seriously disturbing stuff that's been kept hush-hush, hidden from us. Information gathered over years, drawing on all sorts of sources, witness accounts, imagery, signals intelligence, even HUMINT. That's human intelligence straight from the ground.
Okay, so we're talking whistleblowers, hidden truths, and technology that sounds like it's ripped from the pages of a sci-fi novel. Where do we even start with something this complex?
Well, the document itself is structured like a report, broken down into 7 sections. And it starts with a real bombshell. A special access program with the code name Immaculate Constellation. Luis Elizondo, the former intelligence officer who's become a key figure in UAP disclosures. He's hinted at this program before. It was apparently all about collecting imagery of UAPs and something called ARVs, anomalous reproduction vehicles.
ARVs, that sounds like something trying to mimic or copy other aircraft. So what were they actually looking at and how?
From what the document says, Immaculate Constellation was focused on intelligence gathering, specifically on aerospace threats, both foreign and the unidentified kind. Think spy satellites in low Earth orbit, but also cutting-edge sensor tech. Things like FLIR, forward-looking infrared, and FMV, full-motion video. They were using everything they had to track these UAPs.
Wow, that's some serious hardware. But if they had all that tech, wouldn't they have gotten crystal clear images of these UAPs? Why is there still so much mystery about what they look like?
That's where things get interesting. The document actually points out how tough it was to get clear images, suggesting that these UAPs have unique qualities that make them hard to track. It's not like trying to get a snapshot of a stealth fighter. We're dealing with something far stranger.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the encounters laid out in this document. What kind of visual evidence are we talking about?
Well, the document lists a bunch of encounters, mostly from military personnel, and they paint a pretty vivid picture of what these UAPs can do. For instance, there's a case described as CNTCOM daytime formation of metallic orbs. Multiple sources, all backed up by FLIR data, observed these metallic orbs moving around over the ocean.
Metallic orbs. Sounds like something straight out of a movie.
Right, but here's the kicker. These orbs were seen forming a cube shape, and they were moving at insane speeds, all while seemingly messing with the surrounding thermal environment.
That's definitely not your average drone behavior. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? What other encounters jumped out at you?
Another one that really grabbed my attention involved an oval-shaped UAP, what some folks call a tic-tac. This thing was tracked by FLIR in the Indo-PACOM region. It was making these crazy fast turns and flying at speeds that just don't make sense with our current understanding of physics and aerodynamics. The document even says its capabilities were far beyond anything we know in human aerospace technology.
So we're talking movements that would rip a conventional aircraft apart.
That's what the evidence points to, yeah.
Yep.
Then there's this account of a triangular UAP hovering near a vessel at night. As the vessel moved, the UAP kept a steady altitude, like it wasn't even fazed by the ship's motion.
These things operate on a whole different set of rules than we do, almost like they're watching us, studying us.
That's a fascinating thought. And there's even mention of a disc-shaped UAP coming out from inside a thick cloud formation. Makes you wonder if they can interact with or even manipulate weather.
Now, that's a little creepy, like they're playing hide and seek with us, using nature to their advantage. What other bizarre shapes did they come across?
There's a super weird one, described as a jellyfish-shaped UAP. It had appendages and a pulsating light. It was seen hovering and then flying south, crossing the Mexico border. The document even uses terms like appendages and pulsating light, makes it stand out from the more geometric shapes.
A jellyfish UAP. Things are getting stranger by the minute.
And then there's a close encounter reported by flight deck personnel on a CVN, a nuclear aircraft carrier. They saw a small orange sphere up close, and then poof, it vanished right before their eyes. All these examples, and there are many more in the document, point to a consistent pattern: UAPs showing up in shapes, with capabilities and behaviors that we just can't explain.
It sounds like we're dealing with something that's been observed for decades, but still defies any kind of categorization. Can we glean anything from all these sightings, any common threads in their appearance or behavior?
Well, that's where the document shifts gears and starts analyzing things. It looks at a human data set compiled from reports by military personnel between 1991 and 2022, and it found some striking similarities in both shapes and behaviors.
Okay, let's break that down. What kind of patterns did they find?
The most common shapes reported were spheres, disks, or saucers, those oval-shaped tic-tacs we talked about, triangles, boomerangs, or arrowheads, and then some irregular or organic forms, like that jellyfish.
So everything from classic flying saucers to cosmic jellyfish. Quite the variety show happening in our skies.
And it's not just random shapes, they seem to be linked to specific behaviors. For example, spheres were often seen hovering or moving slowly like they were on patrol, while those tic-tacs were associated with rapid acceleration and sudden changes in direction.
So they're not just floating around aimlessly, they're maneuvering in very specific ways, maybe hinting at a purpose or intelligence behind their actions. What about size? Are we talking drone-sized or something massive?
The reported sizes vary quite a bit, from small objects to some that were several meters in diameter. That's pretty big, potentially bigger than any aircraft we know of.
We're definitely not talking about your average hobbyist drone here. What about other characteristics?
Any markings.
Heat signatures?
That's where things get even weirder. The document says that UAPs often don't have the usual aircraft signatures, like heat trails or exhaust plumes, and sometimes they even emit humming sounds or interfere with electronic devices nearby.
Interfering with our tech. That's unsettling. What about colors? Anything consistently reported?
There's been a range of colors reported, including metallic gray, white, red, orange, and yellow. Seems like we've got a pretty diverse cast of characters up there.
Okay, so we have these mind-blowing encounters, consistent shapes and behaviors, but the big question remains, how do these things move? The speeds and maneuvers you've described, they seem impossible based on our understanding of physics.
That's the million-dollar question, and the document keeps emphasizing how maneuverable these UAPs are. Their ability to make sharp turns, operate right in the middle of storms, and even vanish and reappear out of thin air.
Vanish and reappear, like teleportation. Are we really talking about that?
As wild as it sounds, yeah. Multiple witnesses, trained military personnel no less, claim to have seen it. These aren't your average UFO enthusiasts. These are people trained to observe and analyze aircraft. And they're reporting things that shouldn't be possible.
All right, so we've got these baffling encounters, the consistent shapes and behaviors, but what does it all mean? Does the document try to make sense of any of this?
Well, that's where things take a bit of a controversial turn. The document claims there's a deliberate effort to keep the truth about UAPs hidden from the public.
Are we stepping into conspiracy theory territory, or is there more to it?
The document points to people like Luis Elizondo, who have blown the whistle on alleged government cover-ups. Elizondo, for example, was key in revealing the existence of ATIP and OFSAFE, secret Pentagon programs dedicated to studying UAPs.
So the government was investigating this phenomenon, but keeping it all under wraps. Why all the secrecy?
That's what this document alleges. It even details discrepancies found in the internal records of AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. You know, the government body that's supposed to be investigating UAPs right now.
Okay, so we have whistleblowers, secret programs, and now potentially manipulated records. This is getting deep. What's the motivation behind all this secrecy?
That's a huge question, and the document offers a few possible answers. National security is one. If some of these technologies are as advanced as they seem, I can see why governments would want to keep them secret, maybe even try to reverse engineer them and maintain a technological edge.
Makes sense, especially if other countries are also trying to get their hands on this tech. Sounds like a recipe for a whole new kind of arms race.
Exactly. There's also the worry about public panic. The document argues that revealing the full truth about UAPs could cause widespread fear and instability.
I can see that. Imagine the chaos if the government suddenly announced, hey, guess what? Aliens are real and they're buzzing around our airspace.
Yeah, not exactly a press conference any leader wants to give. But the document also raises some ethical concerns about the lack of transparency with Congress and the public. It argues that this kind of secrecy goes against democratic principles.
It's like something out of a spy thriller. Secret programs, classified data, and a potential global conspiracy to cover up the truth about, well, everything we thought we knew about the universe. This is a lot to take in.
It really is, and there's still so much more to unpack in this document. Really is a lot to process. We've gone from those metallic orbs to triangular craft, even a jellyfish-shaped UAP, all while uncovering this potential government secrecy and cover-ups.
You know, that's what keeps sticking with me. We have all this compelling data, suggesting that something truly extraordinary might be happening. Yet we hit this wall of secrecy. Why hide it all? What's the point?
The document does offer some explanations, but it's all just speculation at this point. One reason could be national security. If these technologies are as advanced as they appear, I can understand why governments would want to keep them quiet, maybe even try to reverse engineer them, and maintain that technological advantage.
Especially if other countries are also in the know about these technologies.
Hmm?
It creates this high-stakes situation where nobody wants to show their cards.
Exactly. The document also puts forward the potential for mass panic as a reason for secrecy. Imagine the social and economic upheaval if governments suddenly confirmed the existence of extraterrestrial technology, especially if it was perceived as a threat.
Yeah, that's not a press conference any leader wants to give. Good evening, my fellow citizens. We've been in contact with aliens and things are complicated.
Precisely. But the document also doesn't shy away from the ethical implications of the secrecy. It argues that keeping this information from Congress and the public undermines democratic principles. It erodes trust in government institutions.
It's a classic dilemma, isn't it? National security versus transparency, and the public's right to know. But we can't ignore the courage of the individuals who are willing to put their careers on the line, even their freedom, to bring this information to light.
Absolutely. Whistleblowers like Luis Elizondo play a vital role in holding those in power accountable and ensuring that the public has access to information that directly affects their lives and, potentially, the future of humanity.
Speaking of the future of humanity, let's go back to this idea of non-human intelligence, or NHI. The document doesn't treat it like some fringe theory. It's woven into the analysis, treated as a serious possibility.
Right. And it's important to remember that the document isn't relying on blurry photos or stories from random people. It draws on a diverse set of sources. Testimonies from highly trained military personnel, sensor data from sophisticated equipment, and signals intelligence, which intercepts and analyzes electronic signals.
So this isn't just a collection of campfire stories. This is a meticulously compiled report. While it doesn't offer definitive proof, it presents a compelling case for the possibility of NHI. But if these UAPs are evidence of non-human intelligence, what does that mean for us? Are we talking little green men or something even more fantastical?
The document doesn't really get into specifics about the nature of this potential NHI. It lays out the evidence, highlights the gaps in our understanding, and leaves it to the reader to draw their own conclusions.
It's almost like an invitation to join the investigation, to look at the data and ask ourselves, what if? But it also feels like a call to action. If this information is real, if these encounters are happening, and governments are keeping it all hush-hush, what are we supposed to do?
I think that's the most crucial question. This document isn't about giving us all the answers. It's about raising awareness, encouraging critical thinking, and empowering individuals to demand more transparency from their governments.
You know, one thing that struck me while reading this was the level of detail and the technical language used. While it's fascinating, it also feels like it could be a barrier for some people trying to understand this complex topic.
That's a good point. It's important to break down some of these technical terms and concepts so that everyone can understand what this information really means. For instance, we've talked about MASINT and IMINT, two types of intelligence gathering used in Immaculate Constellation. MASINT, or measurement and signature intelligence, focuses on analyzing the unique characteristics of an object, things like its radar signature, acoustic emissions, even its electromagnetic radiation. IMINT, or imagery intelligence, relies on visual data collected from various platforms, like satellites or aircraft.
So MASINT is about understanding what something is based on its unique fingerprint, while IMINT is about capturing a visual image of it.
Exactly. And when you're dealing with UAPs, both MASINT and IMINT data are crucial for putting together a complete picture of what we're looking at. It's not just about seeing the object, it's about understanding its properties and capabilities.
Okay, so we have this evidence, this data. There's potential for something truly groundbreaking. But we're also up against this wall of secrecy and possible disinformation. How do we move forward?
Well, we can't solve a problem we refuse to acknowledge. The first step is admitting that there's something here worth investigating, something that challenges our current understanding of the world.
Right. We need to move past the stigma and ridicule that have surrounded the UFO topic for decades. This is a serious issue with potentially huge implications for humanity.
It's not just a matter for governments and scientists to deal with either. We all have a role to play in this unfolding narrative. We need to educate ourselves, ask critical questions, and demand accountability from those in power.
Okay, let's get specific. What can we as individuals do to help unravel this mystery? What actions can we take?
There are several things we can do. First, education is key. Read the available material, watch documentaries, engage with credible researchers and organizations like the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies or the Mutual UFO Network. Don't just rely on sensationalized headlines or grainy videos.
Do your homework. Separate the wheat from the chaff.
Exactly. And we also need to support the whistleblowers who are putting everything on the line to bring this information to light. They're the ones pushing for transparency. They deserve our protection and gratitude.
They're like David facing the Goliath of government secrecy. And their courage is inspiring.
Absolutely. We also need to engage with our elected officials. Contact your representatives, ask them what they're doing to investigate UAPs, and hold them accountable for their actions or inactions. This isn't a fringe issue anymore. This is something that affects all of us, and we deserve answers.
Right, our elected officials work for us. We have a right to demand transparency and accountability.
And finally, I think we need to embrace a mindset of openness, accepting that there might be things out there far beyond our current understanding. We need to shed our preconceived notions and be willing to explore the unknown, even if it challenges our most fundamental beliefs.
You know, that's a great point. This whole experience has been a real eye-opener for me. It's made me realize how much I don't know and how much there is still to discover.
That's the beauty of science, isn't it? It's a continuous journey of exploration and discovery. And we're living in a time where those boundaries of knowledge are being pushed further than ever before. This is just the beginning.
I have a feeling we'll be talking about this for a long time to come, and the conversation is only just starting. But we've covered a lot of ground here. And our listeners probably need a moment to absorb all of this.
It really is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
We've gone from those metallic orbs to triangular craft, even a jellyfish-shaped UAP, uncovering this potential government secrecy and cover-ups. But there's one piece of this document we haven't even touched on yet, the international implications.
Right. The document says that other countries, they aren't just aware of UAPs,
Right.
but that some might be trying to weaponize this technology. That's a scary thought, a potential arms race, built on tech we barely understand.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie come to life. Governments trying to reverse engineer alien tech to get an edge over their rivals.
But is there any proof that this is actually going on?
Well, the document doesn't give hard evidence, but it does highlight the possibility of this happening. It argues that if even one country thinks that they can get a major military advantage using UAP technology, it could set off a global arms race, unlike anything we've ever seen.
It's a sobering thought. We've seen how dangerous regular arms races can be.
Yeah.
Imagine the stakes if we're talking about technologies that can defy gravity, manipulate space-time, or even control energy at its core.
Exactly. And the document emphasizes that this isn't just some theory. It points to historical examples of countries pursuing advanced weapons tech in secret, often with disastrous consequences.
But how do you even deal with a threat like that? It's not like you can just sign a treaty banning alien technology when we don't even know what we're dealing with.
The tough part. The document pushes for more transparency and international cooperation. It argues that the best way to stop an arms race is to share information and work together to figure out this phenomenon.
But wouldn't that also risk giving away sensitive information? That could fall into the wrong hands. It's a delicate balance between being open and national security.
It is, absolutely. But the document argues that the dangers of staying quiet outweigh the potential benefits. It suggests that a global issue needs a global solution, and that can only happen with collaboration and trust.
This whole conversation, it's making me think about the future. What if we do actually make contact with a non-human intelligence? How do we even start talking to beings that might be so different from us?
That's a question that has fascinated us for centuries, and one that the document does touch on. It suggests that we need to start thinking about these possibilities now. We need to develop new ways of understanding. and interacting with non-human intelligence. Frameworks that go beyond our limited human-centered perspective.
I imagine it would be like trying to talk to an ant. We might be able to see how they behave,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't really understand their thoughts, their motivations, their culture.
That's definitely one possibility. But it's also possible that we might find some common ground, some shared understanding. That goes beyond our biological differences. Maybe math, music, or art could act as universal languages.
It's both exciting and scary to think about. We could be on the edge of the biggest discovery in history, but we're also totally unprepared for what that might mean.
And that's exactly why this document is so important. It's a wake-up call, a challenge to broaden our thinking and get ready for a future that might be far stranger and more complex than we ever thought.
You know, at the start of this deep dive, I was pretty skeptical. I mean, it's a lot to swallow. UAPs, government cover-ups, the possibility of alien life. But after going through this document and having this conversation, I can't deny that something amazing might be going on here.
I think that's a good approach. Skepticism is healthy, but it shouldn't close us off to the possibility of the unknown.
So what's the takeaway message for our listeners? What do we want them to walk away with after this deep dive?
I think the most important message is this. We need to be open to new possibilities. The universe is vast and mysterious. We're only beginning to understand our place in it. We need to approach this topic and all the questions it brings up with curiosity, humility, and a willingness to question our assumptions.
And we need to demand transparency from our leaders. This isn't just about UAPs. It's about the public's right to know what's going on. It's about making sure those in power are held accountable and ensuring they're acting in humanity's best interests.
Absolutely. We're all part of this story as it unfolds, and we all have a role to play in shaping the future.
Well, this has been an incredible journey. We've explored this document in depth, uncovered potential government secrets, and grappled with the implications of non-human intelligence. It's a lot to process, and I'm sure our listeners will be thinking about this for a long time to come.
I agree. This is just the start of a much bigger conversation, a conversation that could change how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of UAPs. It's a world full of mystery and wonder, and one that we'll keep exploring.
We need to give people the facts about UAPs, encourage critical thinking, but also be open-minded.
And we need to, inspire people, get them curious.
For sure. This is a chance to rediscover that fascination with the unknown, that spirit of exploration that's always driven humanity forward.
It reminds us that there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
That the universe is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered.
And who knows what amazing discoveries are out there, if we're brave enough to look for them.
This deep dive has been a journey for us too, exploring the strange, the unsettling, the awe-inspiring.
And we've only just scratched the surface. The truth about UAPs is still out there.
But one thing's for sure, this story isn't over yet.
Keep looking up and stay curious.
Because the future is full of possibilities.